I know it might sound silly to remind you to breathe, but there'll be times throughout this class today that you're going to forget. So put that in your head. We have to breathe. Coming on back through hands and knees here. What we're going to do next is go ahead and take that right leg out, left hand out. We're just going to feel that stretch. So we're going to lift that pair just a couple inches off the ground. Feel the stretch, like we're trying to be torn apart in half from hand to foot. Sink it back in the socket, bring it back down, come under. Not doing a lot yet, still just warming up the body. Opposite pair come out. They lift a couple inches off. Feel like you're being ripped in half. Sink them back in the socket and bring them back down. One more on each side. Starting to get a little warm. Hopefully you are too. Up, stretch, sink, return. Out, up, stretch, sink, return. There we are for now. Let's go ahead and transition to lying on our back. So from here, we're just going to do some basic core activation type exercises. So what that looks like, the most basic things that we can learn to do is to activate our core in such a way, and the core is all of this, right? It's not just this front six pack that we see on people. So I'm gonna work you through that. So we're gonna activate that core, figure out how to do a really good ab curl or crunch, and then how we can move our legs and keep this stability in our hips so that we're set up for success. So here we are. We're lying on our back. We can feel a little bit of a gap between our low back and our hips here. Feet are planted in the mat, and we're just gonna go ahead and start to tuck and tilt the pelvis. So what does that look like? So if you think about taking that pubic bone and trying to reach it up towards your sternum, that's gonna close the little gap behind you, so you're gonna feel that lower lumbar spine make connection with the mat, and then as you release it, you get your little hole there in the back. So just work through that a little bit. Find the muscles that are gonna activate to get that little gap closed as you bring the pubic bone up and then take it farther away. You might find that you're accessing muscles here in your legs, you're pushing into it to do that. What I want you to do is try to get out of that. And that's a hard thing to do if this is new to you, but just take your mind to that core muscle. And I just want you to try to find that naturally before I start telling you all kinds of crazy things to try. So here we are. Now, what if I told you that you have to take your legs away? So now you really have to find it. So what we're gonna do is find that neutral pelvis, press that low back down into the mat, just gently, so you can still breathe. There's still lots of room for air to get into the lungs and out. Float one knee up in that bent position, the other knee comes up to meet it. So now, I'm sure you felt a lot of work happening. You kind of felt everything kind of wrap in around the sides, the front comes in, everything kind of naturally starts to engage to help you keep these legs in this position. Low back still stays on the mat. So from here, keeping these legs just positioned right here, you don't want them up toward your chest, and you don't want them so far away that you're just shaking. They're kind of right over your hips. Your knees are right over your hips. From here, keeping that whole midline engaged, I want you to put your hands behind your head. Thumbs are right at the base of the skull. You can see your elbows in your peripheral vision. This is still a lot of work. They might be even shaking just having those legs up there. So just bear with me as we get through this. So then your gaze is going to be aimed out over your knees. And there's like maybe a walnut under your chin. It's not quite an orange that we hear sometimes. And from here, thinking long-tailed ahead, we're not going to crunch in and collapse on ourselves. We're going to let our chest float up to the sky. Whew, I'm already shaking. So I'm sure you are. Here we are. Hold it here, be able to breathe, and on an exhale, slowly and with control, bring it back down to the mat. Let's do that again. Keeping those legs steady, we're gonna exhale and we're gonna float the chest up. The gaze looks out. You can see those toes out there in the distance. And bring it back down. One more time. Here we are, floating it up. As you can see, I'm not crunching in on myself. It's more of a long engagement, which is allowing all these muscles, these deep muscles, to activate here. And then bringing it back down, stepping one leg down, the other leg down, stretch the body long both ways. So that is a baseline, or that's the basic building blocks for what we're going to do with the series of 5, which are some really classical Pilates moves, and that's what we're going to roll into next. But before we do that, we got to do the 100 to be properly invigorated, as what Joseph Pilates said the 100 did for us. So here we are. Hands are up above like we're holding a box. We're going to engage all around the midline, bring that in, close the gap. So we're bringing that pubic bone to the nose, or yeah, pubic bone up to the sternum here. Legs float up into that tabletop position. And from here, using that same principle of the ab curl, we're going to float the upper body up, the arms come to the side, and let's for the first 50 just keep our legs in this position, and we're going to slap our hands as we inhale for 5 counts and exhale for 5 counts. In 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5. In 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5. In 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5. In 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5. Last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5. And we gently bring that all back down to the mat. And the idea there is the only thing moving is the shoulder joint as you slap the hands to either side of the hips. Everything else is stable and solid. All right, we're going to set ourselves up for the second half of that. And the challenge is, if you can't, you stay. If that was enough, and you don't need any more challenge to your core and your body, those legs stay in that tabletop position. But if you could use a little more, maybe you take those legs straight up to the sky. And if you're a boss and you're like at every class of mine, or like a Pilates master, and you're like, Jess, this is baby stuff, I need more, then you take those legs out to a 45-degree angle while we're doing it. So here we are. Hands up overhead, up over the chest. We're going to start in this knee bent position. You pick whichever one's best for you. We're going to float that upper body up, take the leg position that we like, and inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5, in 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5, in 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5, in 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5, in 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5, and bring it all back down. Whew, we made it. We're invigorated. Hooray. Shake it out however you need to get relief. Sometimes that can nag the low back a little bit, so just shake your knees side to side here. And we're going to roll right into the series of 5. And we're not going to do full sets. So full sets looks like 8 to 10 maybe of each of these, but I just want to show you what they are. We'll do about 6 of each just to get us through it together here. So here we are, lying on our mat, as we so often find ourselves in Pilates. We're going to go ahead and engage that core. So we've got all that nice energy hugged in. We're going to close the little gap for now. And it's not pressing it down, it's just keeping your body safe. So it's just a nice engagement. Hands are going to come up behind your head, base of the skull in our ab curl. Legs are going to come up into that position. So first we're going to do the single leg stretch. So we're floating the upper body up. And we're going to bring one leg into the chest as the other shoots long and reaches, and we switch. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if that was too much, the upper body can stay down. Just to show you what you can also do. You could be here. If you're feeling a lot of strain in that neck, bring that upper body down and just do the legs. So that was a single leg stretch. Next, we're going to do the double leg stretch. So same thing, we're going to come up into our ab curl. Legs are up, we're kind of hugged in here. So we'll start here, hugged in. We'll reach the both, extend and reach, sweep the arms around and hug it in again. Out and around, and 3, and 4. Core is engaged, body stable. 5 and 6. Hug that in and just kind of shake it side to side, roll side to side, and then bring that down. We got 2 out of 5 done. We're almost there. So the next one is the single straight leg stretch, and that looks like a big scissor, right? So you have options here. You can come into full expression with the upper body up And we'll look like this as we do it. We'll kind of reach for the calf as we do this. Or if that's too much, the upper body stays down and the legs come up, and we're doing this here, just like we did with a single leg stretch, right? So you're gonna pick what is right for you this morning, this afternoon, this tonight, wherever you are in your day. And here we are. I'm gonna go ahead and come on up. So I'm gonna come up into my ab curl, core is engaged. I've got that connection with the low back on this mat. Legs are coming straight up to the air, toes are pointed, and there's lots of energy in these long legs, okay? And it's almost like we're gonna try to start a fire between our thighs. If you've got big thighs like me, you know what that means. It's like corduroy. Here we are. We're halfway through. And 5, 6, 7, and 8. Whew. I'm bringing it back down. That was 3 of 5. Next one is the double straight leg stretch. And I'm just gonna go out and recommend that we're not gonna do the upper body on this one. Rather, what we're gonna do is make this little triangle with our hands. We're gonna put it under our hips, under our sacrum, to help get that little bit more of a tilt here to protect our low back. Whenever you're taking 2 legs away from the body at the same time, it is a good idea, unless you are really, really strong in your core, to make sure you take that imprint or that hug that low back down to the mat. So we're gonna flex the feet. Legs are nice and long. Collarbone is wide. Here we are. We're already working hard. Now I want you just to lower the legs a couple inches away from your body, and then using the lowest of low abs, bring them back up. Oh. Grunting helps, I promise. And in the privacy of your home, cursing also helps. So do what you got to get through it. Each time, we're gonna lower them a little bit more, and you'll know you've gone too far if you really start to feel your low back pop up off the mat. So dial it in a little bit shorter. We've got 4, 5, 1 more. You can see my shoulders started to roll in, so I'm reminding myself to open the collarbone. And 6, that's it, coming back in. Whatever really feels good here, whether that's hugging it in and rocking side to side or stretching the body out long both ways. Everybody's body's a little bit different. All right, so that was 4. What is 5, you say? All right, here it is. Probably the most challenging one. There's options. There's always options. So we're gonna come in. This one's crisscross. And crisscross is the easiest one to mess up, but it's also like the most efficient, awesome exercise if you're doing it well. So we're gonna bring those legs up into that beautiful tabletop position, float the upper body up into our ab curl. So already you know what this is like. This is work. The full movement sequence here will look like what we would do is we would bring one knee in, we turn that elbow toward that knee, and it's an oblique twist like this. What I like to do is start small and build our way up to it so that we get good form, because if we're not doing it well, we're just doing time, whatever. So here we are. Before we move the legs, let's keep the legs still, and we're gonna twist the torso like we did in our waving cat, and we're like looking at that armpit as we open it up, bringing it back through center, twisting the opposite way, looking at that armpit on that side. It's like we're peeling the rib cage of the opposite side up off the back of the mat and anchoring into the rib cage side that we're looking into. Now, if you want, we can add those legs. So one leg shoots out long, just like we did in our single leg stretch, and then we bring it in. And 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. I don't know if that was 6, but I'm done. You get the point. I'm going to stretch out long both ways because that's going to feel really good all on that core that we just worked. So we just did the series of 5. Congratulations. All right, we're going to sit on up for a second, shake it out. Take a drink of water now if you need. And we're going to transition to working on our roll-up. The roll-up is a super powerful move mentally for you, because once you realize you can do it, you know that you can like conquer anything. So we're going to work on how you get there. So what that looks like, and don't say you can't do it when you see this, because I promise you're going to be able to. So we're going to sit up nice and tall. We can feel those bones, the bony points on our bottom, anchor into the mat. Sitting up nice and tall, shoulders are rolled down. Now we're gonna scoop, like we're trying to take that pubic bone and take it back up to the sternum so it creates this little hollowed out tummy, right? From here, we're gonna slowly roll back, making contact with each vertebra as we roll on down. Hands come up overhead. And then we got to get back up, right? Oh, what does that look like? So we come up, we peel the shoulders up like we do in our ab curl, and then we think, how can I sink my belly button down like it's trying, like it's got a hand on the inside, like it's trying to reach that spine. So we're really scooping to pull, and then come on up to seated, and reach out over the feet, get a nice stretch, and then restack the spine to sitting up tall. All right, so how do we get there if we've never done that before? We start small. We bend the knees, we put the feet into the floor. We are sitting up nice and tall on those bones. And you can have the hands here behind the legs, or you can have them here. You'll decide which one is right for you. And we have to build these muscles if they're not there, right? Or they're there, but if they're not strong enough yet, you get what I'm saying. So we're gonna do that tuck, we roll back, and we come to the point where we start to shake and we're like, oh, I may not be able to get up or I'm gonna fall down. And we hold it there, and we breathe. And then using those deep, deep muscles, we're pulling from right here to pull our body back up to seated. And we'll just cycle through a couple of these. And the point is, you're not gonna be able to do it right, you know, the full roll up right afterwards, but what you're gonna do is start to build those deep hip flexor muscles so that way you can get to that point where you're gonna be able to do that roll up pretty easily. And it's super, I mean, it's so rewarding. I promise you it's worth working toward. So besides being able to say, I can do a roll up, why is that important? When you have stability and balance in your body, you move through life more safely, more successfully, and with more confidence. Pilates is going to help you feel strong in your body, and that makes you feel better in your life. Here we are. And up. So the other thing I want to show you then, as you start to build up to that, what you can also do is what happens oftentimes is people get to about this point right here, and that transfer from the front muscles to the deep hip flexors happens, and then there's this glitch and they just kind of fall down. And what I want you to work on is this: as you're doing that, instead of letting the fall happen, come down, take a little elbow here to work yourself through that spot, and then take your kickstand away as soon as you know you've got it. And the same thing when you come back up. Rather than struggling and trying to use momentum to get up into this, I want you to think, anchor the legs down, come to this point, and where you're stuck, push yourself gently through that sticky spot, and then come up and start to work on those muscles. So that's your homework after this video, but there we are.